The Trojan horse is one of the most famous images in all of classical literature. It appears at the very end of the story of the Trojan War, and in popular memory, it represents the moment when the Greeks finally outsmart the city of Troy after 10 years of failed siege. The image is simple and unforgettable. A massive wooden horse left outside the gates of the city, soldiers hidden inside, waiting for nightfall. The Trojans pull the horse inside their walls, believing the war is over. And that night, the city is destroyed. It's usually remembered as a story about cleverness. The Greeks cannot defeat Troy through strength, so they turn to deception. The plan is traditionally attributed to Odysseus, the most cunning of the Greek heroes, a man whose reputation in myth is built not on brute force, but on intelligence and strategy. In this version of the story, the Trojan horse marks the moment when cunning triumphs where heroism fails. But when you look closely at the version of the story told in the Aeneid, something strange happens. The Greeks certainly build the trap. They certainly hide inside the horse. But the fall of Troy does not actually happen because the Greeks successfully deceive the Trojans. The fall of Troy happens because the Trojans ignore the truth. The city is not destroyed because no one understands the danger. It is destroyed because some people understand it perfectly, and no one listens. In the Aeneid, the Trojan hero Aeneas recounts the night his city fell. He describes how the Greeks appear to abandon the war. Their ships vanish. The beach is empty. In their place stands the enormous wooden horse. The Trojans gather around it in confusion, wondering what it means. Some suspect it is a trap. Others believe it is a sacred offering to the gods, perhaps a monument marking the end of the war. And then someone speaks. The Trojan priest Laocoön steps forward and warns the city in one of the most famous lines in classical literature. "Whatever it is, I fear the Greeks, even when they bear gifts." The warning could not be clearer. Laocoön urges the Trojans to destroy the horse immediately. In some versions of the story, he even throws a spear into its side, and the hollow interior echoes. The sound suggests exactly what is inside. In other words, the Trojans are not dealing with a perfectly hidden trick. The possibility of deception is raised openly. The danger is articulated clearly. But Laocoön is not the only one who knows what is coming. Cassandra, the daughter of King Priam, also recognizes the disaster that is about to unfold. In Greek myth, Cassandra has been given the power to see the future, but cursed so that no one will ever believe her. She predicts the fall of Troy again and again, yet every warning is dismissed. By the time the horse stands outside the gates, the city has already heard the truth from multiple voices, and still, they bring it inside. This is the unsettling part of the story that often disappears in modern retellings. The Trojan horse is not simply a brilliant trick that fools an unsuspecting city. It is an object that forces the Trojans to interpret what they see. The horse sits there in plain sight. The Trojans debate its meaning. Some urge caution. Others argue that the war must be over, that the Greeks must have left. After 10 years of suffering, the desire to believe this becomes overwhelming. The horse offers them something they desperately want, a symbol of victory, a sign that the war has finally ended. And so they choose that interpretation. The Trojans do not destroy the horse. They do not push it away from their walls. They do not burn it. They drag it into the center of their own city. The Greeks build the trap, but the Trojans complete it. That detail changes the entire meaning of the story. The fall of Troy is not just a story about deception. It is a story about misjudgment. The danger is not invisible. It is discussed openly, but the city chooses the explanation it prefers. In this sense, the Trojan horse becomes more than a clever military device. It becomes a symbol of a deeper human tendency, the desire to believe comforting interpretations, even when the evidence suggests something darker. The Trojans want the war to be over. They want the horse to mean peace. And that desire shapes how they read the situation in front of them. Once the horse is inside the city walls, Troy's legendary defenses become meaningless. For years, the Greeks have attacked from outside the city and the walls have held. But the horse changes the nature of the threat. The enemy is no longer outside trying to break in. The enemy is already inside the city, hidden within something the Trojans themselves have embraced. That night, while the city sleeps, the Greek soldiers climb out of the horse. They open the gates. The returning army pours into the streets. The war that could not be won through 10 years of open combat ends in a single night. But the power of the story does not come from the cleverness of the Greeks. It comes from the quiet, disturbing fact that the Trojans helped make it happen. Laocoön spoke the truth. Cassandra spoke the truth. The city heard the warning, and the city ignored it. That is why the image of the Trojan horse has survived for thousands of years. It captures a particular kind of fear. Not just the fear of being deceived, but the fear that the truth can be present and visible and still fail to matter. The horse does not need to be perfectly disguised. It only needs to arrive at the moment when people most want to believe the danger is gone. In the end, Troy does not fall because the Greeks are brilliant strategists. Troy falls because the Trojans choose the wrong explanation for what they see. And that possibility, that a society can hear the truth, debate the truth, and still walk willingly toward disaster, is far more unsettling than any clever trick. The Trojan horse stands at the center of the city like a monument to that mistake, a gift, a warning, and a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world is not the lie we are told, but the truth we decide not to believe. So let me ask you this. Was Troy destroyed by deception or by self-deception? Was the Trojan horse really a trick or a test?